Hey everyone, this is Nick and it's time for the Linux and open source news. And this week is all about the desktop, because first we've got the release of Elementary OS 7.1, which might seem like it's a small version number bump, but it has a lot of small touches to the entirety of the operating system. We also have some malware sneaking its way onto the Snap store, although some might argue that Snap is the malware itself. And we also have France wanting to ban VPNs, or maybe at least make them pretty useless. What's not useless though is this segue to our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Thunderbird. Most of you probably know about it, but for those who don't, it's an all-in-one suite that handles email, calendar, contacts, tasks, RSS feeds, and chats. Thunderbird recently received a giant update with a full redesign of the app that makes it easier than ever to set up your accounts and to be productive. The interface is very customizable with multiple choices for interface density, view modes, panels, and the ability to place any button you need in the top bar. After this update, Thunderbird is now my email and calendar client of choice. Also, it's fully open source, it's free of charge, and it's available for any Linux distribution, Windows, and macOS. So whether you used Thunderbird in the past or not, click the link in the description below and give the new release a try. You will not regret it. So, Elementary OS 7.1 was released, and while it's a minor version bump, it still packs a lot of small improvements to the distribution, its desktop, and its apps. First, you now get integration with the background and auto start portal, so you can view and disable apps that want to start with your computer. Calendar, mail, and tasks now use the background apps portal as well, and the location services now uses portal also, so everything should be up to snuff. The App Center will now let you know which permissions apps can access, including location, notifications, background and auto start behavior, accessing various folders, reading and writing system settings, or escaping the sandbox. The Sideload app that lets you install Flatpaks from outside the Elementary OS remote will also display this information. There are new settings to tweak the color through display filters for people with vision disabilities, like for example being colorblind, with multiple choices of color pairings. There's also a grayscale filter now to reduce distraction. Keyboard navigation has been improved, letting you now switch between windows of the same apps, and custom keyboard shortcuts can now access a wider range of keys. In the process, the keyboard settings have been completely revamped with new settings for bounce, slow, and sticky keys. All these settings, but also the mouse and touchpad settings, will be matched now on the login screen. The Feedback app got a search field to let you find the topic you want to report a bug against, and the App Center First Start screen will now more prominently explain how you can add other Flatpak remotes like FlatHub. Apps from FlatHub and other Flatpak remotes also won't be separated from elementary apps in the category views either. Still no FlatHub by default though, and still no easy one-click button to add it. You still have to go download a Flatpak ref file from FlatHub and install it manually first. The installer now lets you select whether you want to install proprietary drivers, and the base of the distro now includes the hardware enablement stack from Ubuntu LTS, so newer hardware should be better supported. The mail client now better detects the spam and archive folders of your email account. You can also rename folders, and you can use touch gestures to delete or archive conversations. You can also add inline attachments like images to your emails, and you can create multiple custom signatures. The file manager gained some new icons in its app menu like zoom and undo and redo, and some view settings are directly accessible there, like showing hidden files. You can also now bulk rename files and share files to other devices using Bluetooth. The music and videos apps have a more modern appearance. The notifications indicator of the desktop now supports showing buttons for missed notifications. Notifications from a specific app can be folded together so they don't use that much space, and the panel has a better networks indicator with controls for VPNs, airplane mode, and more as icons and not as small little toggles. And also various pages in the system settings have been redesigned as well. All in all, it's nothing revolutionary, but it's a lot of smaller improvements to virtually every single part of the elementary OS experience. I think it brings it on par with something like GNOME, for example, even though it still trails far behind for the app ecosystem compared to GNOME. You can download elementary OS 7.1 right now from their website as an ISO. It looks like Linux app stores aren't spared by malware, as malicious apps made their way into the Ubuntu Snap Store. A bunch of reports started appearing, stating that fake crypto apps landed in the Snap Store recently, which prompted Canonical to put restrictions in place for uploading apps to their platform. These malicious apps reportedly stole users' cryptocurrencies, and the offending snaps have now been removed. Canonical stated that you will now have to request a reserved name when you upload a brand new snap to the store, which will then manually be checked to see if you should get that exact name. It won't affect existing snaps, and it might not be a long-term thing, but they say they're investigating the incident as well. And this is why you do need manual reviews on app stores, whether it's the Snap Store, or whether it's FlatHub, or whether it's your distro's repos. If someone human doesn't check those applications, then yes, you're gonna let users download some malware. If Apple and Google have to implement processes to deal with that, we're gonna have to do this as well. And it could be tricky, because we probably do not have the revenue and the manpower to actually get to check all of this. And now we have yet another terrible law in France. It looks like we're really trying to be the worst at handling the internet these days. So we've got this new SREN bill that has been recently introduced, and it's basically an internet censorship law. It would require web browsers to block certain websites directly, but now VPN services might also be banned due to some new amendments being added to that proposed law. About 30 lawmakers from political parties that support the current government want to prohibit Apple and Google from offering VPN-type apps that wouldn't be subject to French and European laws. So basically they would ban all VPNs that would help circumvent the censorship they're trying to implement. And so VPNs would become completely useless, at least on phones using Android and iOS. But that's not all. VPN providers also wouldn't be allowed to provide access to servers outside of the EU, thus making them unsuitable for avoiding geo-blocking and making sure everything that you do using that VPN is still subject to various French or European laws. The French Digital Communications Authority would also gain some pretty big powers. They could notify internet service providers and DNS providers of VPNs that violate that rule, and these actors would have to block users from being able to connect to those VPNs with a 48-hour delay. Now, they also had previously proposed to force social networks to ban users that were using a VPN, but only for posting content, not for viewing it. So it was obviously a ploy to stop anonymity on the internet. Now, thankfully, they withdrew this specific ban, but the new ones they want are worrying to say the least. The SREN bill also proposes to force internet service providers to block websites blacklisted by the government, and it also adds the police can now spy on citizen phones if they are just suspected of something law as well. It is dystopian to say the least. It's crazy to me that France, which is the country I currently live in and I grew up in, now implements stuff that you only saw in totalitarian, authoritarian regimes like Russia, China, or North Korea. That's a list of names of countries that you do not want to be associated with. Now back to our Linux desktops for less horrifying news. In GNOME land, there are plenty of app updates as well. Fragments, the torrent client, finally got a very important feature, the ability to select files you want to download inside of a torrent. Workbench, the sandbox to learn GNOME development, gained a visual refresh and a new window to explain how to install SDK extensions. And there's also a new release of Paperclip, which is a PDF metadata editing app that now uses the latest libadwaita widgets and now supports multiple windows. There's also a new app called Decibels that just plays audio files. There's Warehouse, a new app that manages Flatpaks, their user data and the remotes they come from, and it lets you batch uninstall Flatpaks, it lets you sort them by remote, it lets you find user data and remove it, and it lets you manage all your Flatpak remotes. Carburetor, an app that lets you connect to the Tor network from your GNOME desktop, also got an update to use libvital widgets. Turtle, the Git management app that integrates with Nautilus, now supports tags, and the Fosh mobile shell got some bug fixes and a way to reorder lock screen items. Now, you can insert the usual comment about the GNOME app ecosystem here. It's still crazy to me how many great applications are being developed for Linux these days. It's just awesome. As per KDE, the developers have started reordering the settings once again for Plasma 6. Categories have been tweaked and changed, with an appearance and style category that now includes fonts, a new apps and windows category for default apps, notifications, window management, and activities, a security and privacy category, and a system category. Basically, you will find all the panels you already know, but they've been grouped differently, and these new categories seem like they make sense, and that they split things up more evenly as well. On Wayland, screen arrangements, so multi-monitor layouts, will now be handled by Kwin instead of Kscreen. This means that there's less communication between different tools, which means less chance of something going wrong, and things are more centralized, so it should prove more robust in the end. This change already fixes 3 existing bugs, and it means Kscreen will not see any more work, which in turn means that the multi-monitor implementation for X11 will not see any more work in the future. Spectacle, the screen recorder, also gains support for hardware-accelerated screen recording using VP9, and you will be able to change the default location where these recordings are saved. On top of that, there were 91 bugs fixed, some of which will land in KDE 5.27.9. And since I moved to KDE as my desktop environment, I just made a video about this, the link is in the description, I can't wait for Plasma 6. It looks like it's gonna fix a bunch of annoyances and usability issues that I have with KDE, so yeah, bring it on. Can't wait for February when it releases. And speaking of gaming, let's finish this with the gaming news. First, Proton 8.0-4 was released, now adding support for EverQuest 2, Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, or The Longest Journey. These were already supported in Proton Experimental, but now they're supported by the mainline stable version of Proton. A bunch of bugs were also fixed, notably for Overwatch 2, for Battle.net, for the EA desktop app, for the Baldur's Gate 3 launcher, or for Street Fighter 6. Nvidia support is also improved for a lot of titles, including Darktide, which should mean better support for DLSS and other things like that, and the underlying components of Proton all received updates, like VK-D3D Proton, DXVK NV API, DXVK, and Mono. As always, you don't have anything to do to benefit, you can just get the update straight from Steam. Linux's market share for gaming seems to be dropping again though, as does macOS market share, to the benefit of Windows. Linux market share on Steam is now at 1.63%, with Windows moving back up at 96.9%. SteamOS is also losing ground to other distributions, with Arch and Ubuntu gaining a bit. SteamOS is still one, if not the most popular platform for Linux gaming though, at 43% of Linux users. And of course, AMD CPUs and GPUs keep dominating, as that's what the Steam Deck uses, and the Steam Deck seems to be almost half of the Linux gaming market, at least according to the Steam survey. As always, these numbers only talk about Steam and gaming on Steam, but on Linux, Steam gaming and Linux gaming are pretty much synonymous. I don't think there are many people that game a lot on Linux and don't use Steam for that. And I don't think there are many Linux users that should skip on this message from our sponsor. Tuxedo. They make laptops and desktops that were made to run Linux. All the components inside are picked because they are compatible with Linux and they run well. And if there were any sort of compatibility issues or problems, Tuxedo generally writes patches and submits them upstream so the issue can be fixed for everyone, not just their computers. They have a big range of devices that should cover every need and every price point, from laptops to desktops to NUCs, with any performance level and any use case. You can customize all the components inside, you can have your own keyboard layout on the laptop, you can have your own logo laser engraved on the lid of your laptop. You can basically pick everything you want, and all the laptops can be opened, repaired, and upgraded, including the RAM, the battery, the SSD, and sometimes even the wireless card. So if you need a new computer and you want to run Linux on it, and you want to actually support Linux's development, click the link in the description below and get yourself a laptop or desktop from Tuxedo. So thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to click the like button, the subscribe button, the little notification bell, the comments, whatever, you know how this works. And if you want to support the channel, there are plenty of links in the description below for LibraPay, Patreon, PayPal, YouTube memberships, whatever else. You know how this works. So thanks for watching, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!